I had to do it. Okay, so Orange is the New Black season 4. The new season, it streamed on Netflix last Friday. Everybody was binge watching it last Friday, but me, I had a party to go to and whatnot, so I was watching it little by little throughout the week, and I finished last night. And I am kind of like the first of all, season 4 made up for season 3 because season 3 was type boring. So season 4 basically, and what I'm liking that a lot of these shows are doing, I've said it before, what I'm liking that a lot of these shows are doing is that they are paying attention to what's going on in current events. And this season was very much about Orange is the New Black in general has to do with like tension. And because if you look, you have the Latin girls in one group, the black girls in another, the white women they're in one, and the OGs, the older ladies there. It's like it's cliques. It's very cliquish, and it mostly has to do with either color or like what you categorize yourself as, like, if you're white, if you're old, so this season, because last year was a year where it was like very racially divided, with everything going on with Rachel Dolezal, the Charleston Nine, Sandra Bland, year before that, Mike Brown, Eric Garner, Freddie Gray, so this season of Orange is the New Black was very much about racial tension, about how the system is basically corrupt, which is what we've been saying, about how it was a little bit Martha Stewart-ish also, like basically showing how celebrities get special treatment when they're in jail. It spoke about a lot, and the most powerful episodes was episode 12 and 13. Now, if you have not finished watching or started watching season 4 of Orange is the New Black, I advise you to stop watching me right now. Hit the stop button because there are spoilers that you may not want to hear. So I'm telling you right now, while we're in 4 minutes and 16 seconds, stop the video right now. But anyway, so we all know that, there's a lot of favorites. There's a lot of characters on Orange is the New Black where their backstories really, like, speak to us. Like, we can relate to them, and if we can't relate to them, we see them as human. And we see why they ended up in jail. We see their backstory. We see how they ended up in jail. We've grown to love them. So, Poussey, I know she has a weird name, but she's named after a country. She is one of the girls in prison, and she is like a fan favorite. Like, her smile, her attitude, everything. She's such a sweetheart. And this season, her and the Asian girl Brooke Soso. Brooke is the one who's like the scapegoat for everybody because she talks too much, but she's a sweetheart too. So her and Poussey get together, and they're basically girlfriends and whatnot, and they talk about their future. They talk about stuff. Brooke tried to get because Brooke knew that well, we never really called her Brooke. We called her Soso. She knew that Poussey was a fan of Judy King, and Judy King was like the Martha Stewart type character where she ended up in jail. I forgot why. I think fraud. She did something. But she ended up in jail, and like from the moment she was in jail, she got special treatment. And the guards knew, everybody knew, like there was a drone that was following her in jail, and that's the same drone that Lolly thought was the government. And we see Lolly's backstory. Lolly basically has I think Lolly suffers from like delusions, or like not multiple personality disorder, where she hears voices. And so Lolly goes off to psych or whatever, because they basically declared her crazy. But Poussey is like really excited and interested to meet Judy King. And Judy King is a celebrity. Like I said, she's the Martha Stewart type. And Poussey joins her cooking class and whatnot. But because this season brought on a lot of new correction officers, there was mainly like maybe 3. Captain Piscatella, who was like a major a-hole. Officer Humphreys, who was like this creepy dude who did weird stuff with rodents and whatnot. And he even made Maritza, because Maritza was playing, like, you know how Maritza and Flocka are always playing games, just because they're best friends or whatever. So Flocka and Maritza was playing this game, just a hypothetical game. It wasn't even literal. And it was called Gun to Your Head. And Maritza is like, gun to your head, would you rather eat 10 dead flies or a baby mouse? And I think Maritza said that she would eat a baby mouse because it would be like a jelly bean. So now that Maritza she does the van, she drives the CO van. They have like this house that's like not far from the lake. So Humphreys and Maritza are together, and Humphreys knows that Maritza is basically helping smuggle drugs into the prison. So he takes her into the house. He makes her go into the house, and this dude has 10, not even 10, it looked like more than 10, but he had dead flies and a baby mouse on the table. And she's like, well, you can't make me do this. So he literally puts a gun to her head and makes her either eat the 10 flies or the baby mouse. It turns out that she ate the baby mouse. So once Maritza tells Flocka that that's what Humphreys had her do, everybody in jail got wind of it, and also how the jail is being run, because Caputo is too busy boning this new chick from MCC to even pay attention to what's going on with what Piscatella is doing. Because Piscatella is basically running the prison. So everybody gets wind of what happened, and the inmates, they're sick of it. So it was even to the point where they started frisking the girls, because what happened? It was something that happened. I can't really remember. But either way, they started frisking the girls, and if you were white, they wouldn't frisk you. So in order to not be frisked, Blanca comes up with this idea to put like rotten food on her, so that they won't have to, if they don't smell her, they won't frisk her. So because she kept doing that, they made her stand up on the table, and they were like, you're going to stand there until you get tired. So Blanca was standing there for 2 days, falling asleep, pissing on herself or whatever, but she refused to break. So after that happened, they made Piper stand on the table because Piper tried to give her food, and it was just harsh punishments that they were doing. Like, they were treating the inmates like animals. So one night they all decided to gather together and do a peaceful protest. Nothing negative, nothing, they all just decided to stick together. So Suzanne, as soon as the COs tell them, get them down, Suzanne starts to go crazy. She's like, I did a bad thing. So Bailey, who's like, he's like the young member of the crew, like the COs, like he's a good kid, he means no harm. So he tries to restrain Suzanne, but Suzanne is like having a fit. So Poussey is trying to pull him closer. She's like, listen, let me just talk to her. So he grabs Poussey and he puts her on the floor. And he has his knee, like all of his body weight on Poussey. Mind you, Poussey is this big. So he's still trying to restrain Suzanne while restraining Poussey. And Poussey is laying there and she's like, oh my God, it hurts. It hurts. Like her chest, everything is on the floor. She's a small girl. So Bailey is still on her back, not realizing that all his weight is on her, but he's trying to stop Suzanne. So he eventually smothered, like suffocated Poussey, and she passed away on the floor. So when Tasty realized it, Tasty started crying, like, sobbing, like how the rest of us would. Because, I sat there and I watched it and I'm like, no, not Poussey, no. So then the next episode, it pissed me off because Poussey's body was still on the floor the whole episode. And basically what was happening was nobody informed Caputo of really what was happening. And he didn't even know that Poussey's body was still on the ground. And they didn't even have sense enough to pick her body up, take her to the morgue, take her to the court, nothing. So that's reminiscent of Mike Brown. Because when Mike Brown was killed, they left his body there for hours. So, what else happened? The people who trying to release the story are more interested in getting Poussey to look like a thug or look like, she was up to no good as her main picture when they put it on the news, as opposed to really figuring out who she was. Like, they were just more interested in media attention and ratings than they were remembering that this was a human being. This was somebody who had a life ahead of her, and she died for no reason. And the officer that accidentally, killed her, he's gonna be looked at as a bad guy now, so, that's gonna mess him, that's gonna change him forever. So all of the black girls, like all of the Black Cindy, what's her name? Black Cindy, Janae, Allison, Crazy Eyes, they're all upset because people keep offering their condolences, but they feel like people really don't care. And then, mind you, you got the girls who are skinheads or whatever, the white girls, they all about white power and white lives matter. And this was a group that Piper, like, she didn't mean to create the group. The girls just took it and went left with it. So that's where the racial tension comes in. And, they're upset. And Tasty is trying to deal with it. She's telling Caputo, hey, you have to call her dad. You haven't called her dad yet. Her dad has a right to know. Caputo is too busy running around like a chicken with his head cut off to actually pay attention to the fact that he hasn't even called Poussey's dad. While all of this is going on, we see a little bit of Poussey, like how her day in New York was going, and she tried to see the Roots in concert with her friends. It turned out to be a cover band. Then she got lost because somebody stole her phone, so she went to this drag show, had a ball, and then the drag queens let her borrow their phone so she could get the address. She was trying to figure out how to get there. She figured out how to get there. She met up with some monks. They took her by, it looked like the Hudson River. They spoke to her. It was just a nice day for her. And basically Poussey's backstory is that she's an army brat. Her father's a general. She was on her way to Amsterdam, but, she came to see the Roots in concert or whatever. And her day turned out to be, it was a mess, but, it was a day well enjoyed. So, when it became time for Caputo to speak, he basically said, there was a tragedy that happened in the jail, and Officer Bailey will be suspended, but he'll be rehired and whatnot. Basically, he never said Poussey's name, Sandra Bland and basically dismissed the fact that, basically maintain Bailey's innocence, which Bailey is innocent, but at the same time, Bailey did something wrong. And Bailey's not going to take the fall for Poussey's death. So that pissed Taystee off. And she went on a rampage. All of the inmates they were going crazy at the same time. Judy King was being released. What else? And while all of this is happening, all of the COs are trying to get the inmates in order, but it's too much because the inmates overpower the COs. So I think Humphreys tried to pull his gun out, and when he did, it slipped out of his hand and it fell right by Daya's foot. So Daya picks up the gun. So Maria says to her, Daya, you don't look like you know what you're doing. You might have to give that to somebody who knows how to use the gun. So Daya points the gun at Humphreys, and she was like, fucking COs, you're all pieces of shit. So everybody is like egging her on to shoot the cops. And all of this is going on, and it basically, the camera circles Daya, and it's basically the decision is left in her hands, shoot or not shoot. And it basically ends there. But then it goes back to Poussey in New York, and Poussey looks at the camera and she smiles. So it ends there. So, I mean, this season left on a really good cliffhanger, and it really brought to the forefront the seriousness in which, this goes on daily with, plenty of Sandra Bland's, Trayvon Martin's, Michael Brown's, Eric Garner's, everybody who's died at the hands of police brutality or died at the hands of police and it was senseless. This season of Orange is the New Black really brought that to the light. And I really applaud Piper Kerman, who the show is basically the show is based on her spending her a year in prison. But I really applaud her and the writers and everybody of Orange is the New Black for bringing this issue to the forefront, because it needs to be seen, it needs to be said. And I mean, I know everybody who's fans of Orange is the New Black is very sad that Poussey is now gone, but her story brings forth all of the stories that we've been hearing about for the past few years. And, it needs to stop. At some point, it needs to stop. It's ridiculous. And it's getting out of hand. So, this season, it made up for the last season, because the last season was very long and drawn out and dragged. But this season was pretty good, and I enjoyed it. I just hate that we have to wait a whole year. Like, what Netflix needs to start doing with all their shows is streaming the episodes weekly. That's what they need to start doing. Because if you give us the whole season, we are bound to binge watch it like the day it comes out. So I really enjoyed this season of Orange is the New Black, and I can't wait for the next season. So, you guys let me know how you felt about it. Like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.